All right, let's jump right in. Look, you're here because you're great at what you do, but you've probably figured out that being good isn't always enough, right? You need influence, and today that's exactly what we're going to build. This isn't going to be a boring lecture. Think of this as me handing you a practical toolkit for leadership. You ever have that moment, you're in a meeting, you present a really solid idea and nothing? Just blank stares. Then, not even 5 minutes later, someone else says basically the same thing, and suddenly everyone's nodding like it's the best idea they've ever heard. That right there is the influence gap. It's one of the most frustrating things for a rising leader. But here's the secret. It's not a mystery. It's a code. And today, we're going to crack it together. So, here's the most important thing to get straight right now. Stop thinking of influence as some magic quality you're either born with or you're not. It has nothing to do with being the loudest or most charismatic person in the room. It is a skill. It's a set of skills, really, based on some pretty deep psychological triggers. And just like any skill, it can be learned, it can be practiced, and it can be mastered. So think of this as your personal training session. Okay, let's get into the framework itself. A lot of people mix up authority and influence. Authority, that's just telling someone what to do because of your job title. It's fragile. Real influence, true influence, is making them want to do it. It's about shaping the entire environment so that your goal becomes their natural choice. This isn't magic, it's strategy. And here they are. These are the 7 psychological laws that are quietly running the show in almost every human interaction. We're going to break down every single one, and I'll show you how to turn them into practical, everyday tools you can start using, today. Think of this as our roadmap for the whole session. Let's kick things off with the 2 big ones, the absolute fundamentals. These are your building blocks. Once you get these down, I promise you are going to see an immediate change in how people respond to you and your ideas. We are all wired for this. Just think about a limited time offer or a flash sale. What happens? Suddenly you're way more interested. Why? Because scarcity creates a sense of value. The exact same thing applies to you. If you're always on, always available, always the first to reply to every single email, you're accidentally signaling that your time isn't that valuable. We need to flip that perception, starting now. So, how do you actually do this? Here is your daily habit. Open your calendar and block out 2 hours. Call it deep work or strategic focus time, whatever works. Make it public. You're not being rude, you're protecting the most important asset you have, your focused brain power. Then, in a meeting, instead of jumping in on every topic, wait. And when you do speak, frame it. Say something like, I only have a moment before my next call, but my key thought on this is... Instantly, your input becomes a valuable, scarce commodity. This law is incredibly powerful. It taps into this almost automatic human response to repay a debt. Get this. A study found that waiters who gave diners 1 little mint with the bill saw their tips go up by 3%. Not bad. But waiters who gave 2 mints, their tips jumped by 14%. The lesson is crystal clear. Give value first, with no expectation of getting something back. So your daily habit for this one? Simple, but it works. Find one specific reason to publicly praise someone on your team. Do it in a group chat or a team email. It costs you absolutely nothing, but you're building this huge reservoir of goodwill. And in a meeting, let's say you need something from another team. Don't just ask. Start by offering. Say, hey, before we get to what I need, I wanted to let you know my team has some extra bandwidth to help you on your upcoming launch. See? You're making a deposit into the relationship bank before you make a withdrawal. Okay, so you've used scarcity to establish your value, and you've built goodwill with reciprocity. Now let's move on to the next 3 laws. This is all about building on that foundation to establish yourself as a credible, trustworthy, and really consistent leader. At its core, this is just herd behavior, and you can absolutely use it for good. When people feel uncertain, what do? They look around to see what everyone else is doing. So if you're trying to roll out a new process, nobody wants to be the guinea pig. But if you can show that it's already working wonders for someone else, all that resistance just melts away. Okay, your daily habit here. Become the team's official curator of success stories. Share a link to a glowing client review. Forward an email about a huge win from the marketing team. You're not just sharing news, you're building a culture that expects success. In a meeting, when you're pitching something new, anchor it with social proof. Don't just say, here's my idea. Instead, try, the sales team in the UK piloted this and saw a 15% jump in conversions. I think we can adapt it for our market. You're not just presenting an idea, you're presenting evidence. Now this one feels a little backward at first, but it is so important. A lot of new leaders think they have to have all the answers. You don't. In fact, pretending you know something when you really don't is the fastest way to destroy your credibility. When you admit you don't know something, it shows you're secure and confident. And it makes the times you do state something with certainty that much more powerful and believable. So here's how to practice this. Daily habit. Find a junior team member who's an expert at something you're not. Maybe it's a new software or a social media platform, and genuinely ask them to teach you. You empower them, and you learn something. Win-win. In a meeting, use this magic phrase. That's a great question. Honestly, I don't have the answer, but I know Jen has done a ton of work in this area. Jen, what are your thoughts? You see, you haven't lost authority, you've just demonstrated it by empowering your team. Psychologically, we all have this deep, nagging drive to be consistent with who we've been in the past. Once we agree to something out loud, even if it's tiny, we feel this internal pressure to stick to it. This is the classic foot in the door technique. As a leader, you can use this to build momentum for massive projects just by getting a series of small, easy yeses along the way. So the daily habit for this one is to end every single one-on-one with a quick verbal confirmation. Just ask, so are we on the same page that your next step is X? Get that small yes. In a bigger meeting, if you feel things are getting off track, bring it back to a past commitment. Look, I know this is tough, but remember back in our Q3 planning, we all agreed that our #1 priority was improving the customer experience. This project is the key to that. You're not arguing with them, you're just reminding them to be consistent with themselves. All right, let's level up. This is where we start combining these principles to navigate some of the trickiest parts of leadership. Handling conflict, de-escalating arguments, and motivating a team that has just completely hit a wall. Have you ever dealt with a pushy salesperson? The more they push, the more you want to back away, right? That feeling is called psychological reactance. When people feel like their freedom to choose is being threatened, their gut reaction is to resist and push back, even if they might secretly agree with you. The key to de-escalating conflict is to give them their freedom back. So instead of saying, we have to do this, offer a choice. Okay, looks like we have two paths here, A and B. They both have pros and cons. Where do you think we should start the discussion? Suddenly, it's not a fight. It's a collaboration. Think about a parent trying to get a kid to eat their vegetables. Eat your broccoli is a command, and it usually fails. But I bet you can't finish your broccoli before I count to 10. Well, that's a challenge, and it works. When you delegate, don't just assign a task. Frame it as a challenge that plays to their strengths. Listen, this client is notoriously tough, which is exactly why I'm giving this to you. To kick off a difficult project, you could say, look, the timeline on this is insane. Honestly, most teams wouldn't be able to pull this off. But I have a feeling we're not most teams. It's not a chore anymore. It's a mission. Okay, the theory is great, but let's put this all together into a playbook you can actually use. We're going to take one of the most common leadership challenges, running a brainstorming session that needs to produce real results, and we'll apply these laws step by step. Here is your 4-step game plan for your very next brainstorm. Step 1. Kick it off by restating a shared goal you've all agreed to in the past. That's consistency. Step 2, prime the room with some social proof. Say something like, I was reading about how the team at Spotify tackled a similar problem. Step 3, throw down a gentle challenge. Honestly, this is a really tough nut to crack. I'm not even sure we can solve it in one session. Just watch the energy in the room change. And finally, step 4, use your authentic authority to empower them. I definitely don't have the answer, but I know for a fact that the talent to find it is right here in this room. You've just perfectly set the stage for a breakthrough. But listen, you have to be careful. These tools need a delicate touch. The amateur uses reciprocity like a transaction. I did this for you, so now you owe me one. It just feels cheap. The master, on the other hand, gives support genuinely and often unexpectedly. That's what builds true loyalty. The amateur thinks they need to be the smartest person in the room, which just makes everyone else shut down. But the master knows that saying, I don't know, is actually an invitation for the whole team to step up and solve it together. We have covered a ton of ground here, but all this knowledge is completely useless if you don't take action. So I'm not going to finish with a neat little summary. I'm going to end with a challenge, specifically for you. You don't just wake up one day and become influential. It's built in dozens of small moments, in daily habits, in the way you structure one single sentence in one meeting. So look back at these 7 laws. Don't try to do them all at once. You'll just get overwhelmed. Pick one, just one. Is it going to be scarcity, reciprocity, maybe authentic authority? Choose one law that you will consciously practice every day this week. That's how this all begins. The first step is yours.